This is going to be our Tapped In segment brought to you by Thin Man Brewery. And our Tapped In player, our locked in player for majority of camp and that blue and red practice the other night has been wide receiver Keon Coleman. The Bills, when you watch them practice, Keon is going to be a big part of this offense. And I think aside from Josh Allen, what's hilarious is when you're watching the players run out to the field at camp, aside from Josh Allen, Keon Coleman actually gets some of the loudest cheers when he comes onto the field, which he's a polarizing guy. You know it. We know it. He's a polarizing guy, character, personality, on the field, off the field, but also the fans. But he's been tapped in and talked about from just about everybody in the media and analysts that have been out to camp. So he's our tapped in player for camp so far, but also the blue and red practice. So what has Keon showed you in year 2 in this camp?
The way I described it on WGR Bulldog the other day is I think Keon has been more intentional in the way he runs his routes. You know, I think he came into the league thinking, okay, I'm this really good athlete, you know, crossover college basketball, college football. I have a body that, you know, a lot of these guys, you know, they don't have that I have at wide receiver, and I can be able to high point the ball or box a guy out when the ball is coming down. No, he's not going to beat you with his blazing speed, but he knows that, you know, he's a good athlete that can do all these things. I think once you get to the NFL, you realize those margins aren't as wide as you think. And everybody's great athlete. These corners are the best in the world at what they do, right? So I think from him he talked a lot about route running this offseason, getting better at route running. I see that because I think he's been more intentional. What I mean by that is, Eric, I think he's slowing down a little bit more at the top of the route, understanding how to use his hips, how to use his feet to run the route to where he's supposed to be, not just try to get there. There's a big difference, right? If you run the route where you're supposed to be instead of just trying to get there.
Right.
We talked the one day about him catching the ball, sticking his foot in the ground and going upfield, right? That's part of this, which is, I think he's understanding how he has to navigate a football field by using his route running and to be somewhere where he's supposed to be with the timing of Josh Allen.
Yeah.
You can't just get into this NFL. You can't come into the NFL and go, oh, I'm just going to do it because I'm an athlete and I can go there. And that's not a Keon Coleman thing. That's anybody thing. All these guys, a lot of these guys are like that. It doesn't matter what position you play. You've always been the best at where you played and I'm the best person on the field. You've never had to maybe be that guy who has to dial in and have those real thin razor margins for error that you have to be on top of. And I think that that's, to me, what I've liked about Keon. He's more intentional in what he does. Now, he's also been inconsistent. He dropped 2 balls on Friday night. He should have caught early on. One from Josh Allen on 7-on-7, one from Mitch Trubisky, I believe it was, over the middle on a crosser, and 11-on-11 should have been a big gain. And those are the consistencies that he has to clean up. You have to catch those footballs. Now, later, he made 2 great catches. One was against Christian Benford. And he did exactly what I said. He was down the sideline. And Eric, I don't know if you saw it. He kind of bodied Benford, and Benford couldn't kind of get over his shoulder.
Over the top. Yep.
Yeah. And he did a great job to lean in where he should to make sure he could catch it. Only he could catch it. Like, that's what you want to see, but you want to keep seeing that, but you got to get rid of those other inconsistencies that are happening.
And I love that rep because Benford was impressed. He was up in Keon Coleman's face on the snap. Coleman stabbed outside and took a 9 route, went outside, released outside, and Benford couldn't even get his hands on Coleman. And there was immediate separation vertically up the route of, up the stem. And then throughout the route, as the ball's coming in, like you said, he maintained that separation, kind of locked it in. And that's one thing that, is so different about Coleman versus some of the other guys is he's got that physicality and the body to naturally box out a guy. It's like, it comes natural to him. When you watch him at the catch point and he's extending his arm and kind of, creating some separation, like that all is natural to him. A former basketball player, that is just second nature to him. And, when McDermott was asked about Coleman today and what he's seen, the thing he mentioned was the consistency when we're talking the 50-50 balls. And I found that interesting because that is obviously a role and niche that he has to lock down. He has to be better at in those contested catch situations. And I think he's one of the few that, regardless if he's dropping a couple early on in those, 7-on-7 periods, when you see him in team periods, it's like he's a gamer. He just reminds me of a basketball player that is very streaky. He gets hot. He's a gamer. In those big moments, they can look to him. And I think last year, people don't realize when he was healthy on third downs, he was the second highest targeted player on third downs last year at 15.4%. across the receivers,
Amazing.
the running backs, and the tight ends. He was second in touchdowns behind Mac Hollins with 2. And Hollins had 3. So I do think there's an inherent trust with a guy like him because of his size, what he brings physically, body control wise, and then just those 50-50 balls. If any of these quarterbacks feel like they're in trouble or they're at the end of a play or outside of structure, they have an inherent trust to say, you know what, if I give him a chance, there's a good chance he's gonna bring it down. Now, again, if it reminds me of early Dawson Knox, Sal.
Yeah,
early on in his career, he had drops, and they were the easy ones, but he made the hard ones look so easy.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like that.
I've compared it to Gabe. Remember, Gabe had a few of those.
Gable, yep.
Right, Gabe Davis was like that, where he'd make a big play and like, wow, like great catch on the sidelines. I mean, they don't win the Indy playoff game without Gabe Davis making a couple of those catches, right?
Totally.
And of course, we all know what happened in the AFC, the game when he scored the 13 seconds game, I'll say, in Kansas City. And then, but he would every once in a while you drop one, you're like, oh my gosh, like you got to hold on to that, right? So, yeah, that's the thing. You got to be consistent. You got to make the easy ones because those are the ones. I think sometimes guys, they're so dialed in on trying to make every catch that maybe you just let your guard down a little bit on those ones that you just can. Maybe you see green grass in front of you, green turf, right? Whatever it is, you got to be more consistent and stay dialed in on those.
Totally. I mean, the first drop the other night was like a 7 to 9 yard curl route. No one really near him dropped it. The other one was like a 10 to 12 yard dig route over the middle. Good separation, really no one near him or in that zone, and he dropped it. But then you have guys draped all over him, and he's bringing those plays in. So it reminds me of early Dawson Knox in his career. So as of right now, Keon Coleman, tapped in player, courtesy of Thin Man Brewery. And if you guys haven't heard, Thin Man is, bringing big things this year. The fan favorite is Pils Mafia. It's getting a bold rebrand and is bringing back up, and they're introducing Mafia Light. Meet your new tailgate essential. Mafia Light hits different with just 3.5% ABV and only 80 calories per 12-ounce can. Drinks like water with notes of beer. You're going to have this probably in the Buffalo and Rochester area in early August, just in time for tailgate season. It's one of those beers that when we're talking August heat and we're talking, preseason games and even going into September, you want something that's kind of light and that's not going to be completely filling. Mafia Light is going to be that for you. So make sure to keep your eye out for Mafia Light, courtesy of Thin Man Brewery. And once again, Keon Coleman, the tapped in player for this segment. And thank you to Thin Man Brewery for sponsoring this segment for the next year.